dive deeper into how programming actually works in this new series I like to call CS50++, which is going to build on CS50 but cover even more what's going on syntactically rather than just kind of copying and pasting. So why should you watch? And why is this going to be good for anyone, even if you've been programming for years? It's going to take a very basic course and teach you how to actually learn programming languages rather than memorizing syntax. This will essentially make it so that you don't have to keep memorizing. You will know how to use every single type of programming language, especially with AI now available, and we will never memorize syntax again. We'll basically know 100 different programming languages while only knowing one, programming itself. So it first makes sense to dive into Hello World under the hood. We're first going to have our main function that we're adding in. And within this, we're saying that the type returned is going to be of type int, or rather integer. And the function is going to actually be called main, and the logic for that function is going to go within these brackets. And this function is going to take no parameters, or rather void or null. From here, we then move on to our first line of actual code or logic. And this is going to be making sure we import the library that we're going to use, which is going to be from CS50. And the actual function we're using is the getString function, which we can see here. From there, we know that this function, based on if we were to look at the documentation, we know that it takes a string, and this string is going to be the placeholder, or essentially what it's going to show to the user before it asks or while it takes in the input from the user. With this input that we'll get from the user that's in the terminal, we're going to call that variable name, and we're going to say that it's going to be of type string, which makes sense, and it matches with what CS50's documentation would say. It would say, okay, it's returning a type string, so we know that if we're going to use this string, the variable should also be declared string. From here, we move on to actually being able to use that name variable by adding our printf function. This printf function is coming from the programming language C, the standard library provided by C itself, and in here is going to be the printf function, again, very similar to up here. And it's important to note that we are actually, in both of these lines really, we are using functions rather than creating our own.